Hello YouTubers, welcome to part 2 of my how to avoid cube rotation section. And today we're going to be talking about influencing edge orientation. So as I mentioned in the last video, you can tell the orientation, or basically the genness, or how many gens of movements it is going to take to solve a pair, simply by the orientation of the edge of that pair. That edge dictates the corner. So if this edge and this corner belong together, I know that this corner, if these two belong together, that this cannot line up. That this must be 3 gens or a cube rotation involved in order to solve it. So when I bring this up, I know these two are going to set up into that, and I could respond as such. Now, you might also wonder, okay, well that's good to know, but how might I also influence it? How might I change my edge orientation? What if I come up in a situation like this where I'm going to have to do a cube rotation here, or if not, I'm going to have to use something like Fs, which are really awkward to do. So, which, by the way, one of the things we will actually go over is using Fs, but for the moment, let's talk about how we could influence this edge. So this is a bad edge. It is not oriented. Those are two different terms referring to the exact same thing. And there are 2 very simple ways to affect the edges, and they are using 2 simple little tricks that I use. One called a sledgehammer, and the other one called a hedge slammer. Now, this is specifically from the front 2 slots. From the back 2 slots, I have something different. So I'll show you guys how to do in the next video how to do the same thing using the back 2 slots. But from the front 2 slots, used from the front left and the front right slot, if I want to affect the orientation of an edge, I simply need to put it in the front here and apply either a sledgehammer or a hedge slammer. A sledgehammer is where we go R prime F, R, F prime. That's a sledgehammer. And the hedge slammer is just the inverse. So it's F, R prime, F, R. Okay? Sledgehammer is R prime, F, R, F prime. Hedge slammer is F prime, R prime, F, R. Okay? So understanding that, as you can see, it actually alters understanding that simple concept allows us to alter the orientation of this edge very quickly. Sledgehammers are less than a second, generally. This is not a very good cube, so this is a bad example, but as you can see, I can do it in less than a second with the bad cube. With a good cube, it's even better. So, using this, if I can just want to take the edge and flip it, I can either use a hedge slammer or a sledgehammer. Now, generally, I use a sledgehammer to orient edges, because a sledgehammer, when you have it in the front here, will just take the edge from here to here and orient it. That's all it'll do. If you do a hedge slammer, it'll put it inside its spot and orient it. So if you wanted to put it in its spot and orient it, you would use a hedge slammer, especially if you had it in the front right here. But if you just wanted to keep it on top, you just use a sledgehammer, like that. So that's a simple little trick to orient the edge. So, for instance, I could, now this isn't necessarily the way I would do it, if I saw that this edge and this corner were opposites, they were not not oriented, and therefore this would require 3 gens, I could just simply do sledgehammer. Now this is properly oriented, U prime, R prime, and 2 gen it in right there. That's one way of doing it. So I never needed to do a cube rotation, as opposed to if I had it here, I would have had to have done that, U2, R, U, and then came over here, or used Fs, which is very possible. But yeah, so we can simply adjust it using hedge slammers and sledgehammers. And again, I could also keep it in place and do that. Here. Like that. So I had it back here. Knowing it's got to be 2 genable now, I can just go straight through. Okay, so that's a simple way to alter the edge orientation from the front or the back. We'll go into how to do, or from the front. We'll go into how to do the back in the next video.